What is up, guys? My name is Sid Regan, and we are back on F1 24 Driver Career. This is Season 1, Episode 9 for the British Grand Prix. Coming up. So we arrive here at Silverstone, the 9th race of the season, after a very successful weekend at Austria. Go check out that race before you see this one. We were able to grab second place in both the sprint and the race. Car had amazing pace the entire weekend. We nailed the setup, we nailed the strategy, but for an unlucky red flag, we could have gotten our first win of the season. But it was Russell after the red flag who had the best pace in the rain. So hopefully we can have a weekend like that again here at Silverstone as we set our goals. Deborah wanted us to be over 175 for 30 seconds for the aerodynamics. And Mr. B wants us to use a lot of battery throughout the weekend, which we are going to do either way, so that's an easy goal for him. Paolo says no flashbacks. We can do that. And Sue wants us to complete one of the practice programs. I'm going to give Sue a little bit more credit as she helped me come up with the strategy for the Austrian Grand Prix, and it was genius. It was literally just bad luck on a red flag. Take a look at the rivalries. We are still beating Hulkenberg. The team recognition is very much swung in our direction. And we are able to take the lead in our rivalry with Hamilton after our monster weekend at Austria. Hamilton will be looking to even the score at his home race, where he is statistically the best driver of all time. So we'll have our work cut out trying to stay ahead of the Brit. And as we look at the developments, we only have a week between races, so we're not going to get any upgrades heading into the race. We do have some upgrades in the pipeline, however, in the form of a major weight reduction and a major engine power. And before we head into qualifying, we have a mid-season interview.
Hello and welcome back, and as you can see, the paddock is a hive of activity behind us. More action though going on behind closed doors because, Anthony Davidson, we are in the middle of silly season. There is speculation everywhere as to where the drivers will move around the grid. Tell me from a driver's perspective, just how distracting is this?
It is a distraction, and it has been up until this point in the season, especially when you're outside of the car. But once that helmet goes on and the visor's down, it's back to business as usual, and that's when you see it all melt away. You're in the car doing what you do best. But yeah, certainly out of it, you sometimes see it boil over. Drivers have a few strong words to say to each other after some moments on track because it is such a stressful environment.
A huge mind game for all of the drivers. We're having secretive meetings, clandestine chats. What is exactly being said, though? Give us a level of insight.
So if you're not performing, obviously, you know, we're in a very brutal world in Formula One where the driver's data is there on show for inside your team for all to see, and you're constantly being compared against your teammate. There's nowhere to hide. And if you're not performing, then your team boss might be looking elsewhere and might not be telling you the full story. So sometimes you seek news from elsewhere in the paddock, even from the media. They might be telling you what's really going on with inside your team, and that's very uncomfortable. And then on the flip side, if you're having a great season, you might be the one having secretive talks with other teams that are performing better than your own team.
Okay, well, we're nearly out of time, so I'm going to send you to the commentary box, and we're going to get ready for today's Grand Prix.
So as we head into British Grand Prix qualifying, looks like we have some weather. Heavy rain at the start, to light rain, to maybe no rain by the end, assuming we can make Q3. As in the last game, this was not one of my better tracks. Looks like it's going to be dry for the entire race. Let's head in to qualifying.
Welcome along, everybody, to a venue that was built for speed. Once an airfield, now one of the finest racetracks in the world. It's qualifying day here at Silverstone for the British Grand Prix.
Track is wet right now. Feel your way around the conditions before you start pushing the car.
So we waited until the end of the session and went out on the intermediates. Puts a lot of pressure on us to get the lap in, but the conditions were basically full wets up until 4 minutes to go. So it's going to be a bit like one-shot quali for everybody, and who can get a good enough lap in to move on. and the grip is still a little bit dicey on these intermediates. As we go through the loop, I am running a slightly lower downforce setting for the race, so quali's going to be a little bit more difficult as we head down the straight towards Brooklands. I found their little mid-season interview kind of interesting, talking about silly season and secret meetings. We head through Luffield. Apparently we are purple through Sector 1, so it's a good sign, but we're getting a lot of wheel spin on the rear. But back to the secret meetings. We've only had one secret meeting so far this entire season, and that was quite early on in the year when Alpine showed interest in us early. And despite being a factory team, they have an underpowered engine and their management's a bit of a mess, so I figured it was safer to stay with Haas. As we tiptoe our way through Maggots and Beckett's in the wet, the grip is still very limited feeling at the moment, or the setup is a little too aggressive for the weather at the moment. But back to Alpine, they've been the only team that showed any interest in us as we lose a little bit of grip on the exit of Stowe, heading into Club and Vale. We need a good end of the lap as we're only 2/10 up, but purple through 2 sectors, but I think everybody still has a lap to do behind us. So that puts us into first for the moment. We end up down in 11th. We do make our way through into Q2. Hulkenberg just behind us in 13th, but he has a grid penalty. Norris tops the session in the McLaren, with Russell behind him. But what's more interesting is at the bottom of the field, with Verstappen being eliminated in 17th, Alonso in 18th, Sainz and Hamilton are both also eliminated in 19th and 20th. So that was an absolutely topsy-turvy first session.
Everyone ready? Okay, let's go.
That's a lot of big-name drivers eliminated in Q1, as we'd put a lap down on intermediates early in this session, but the track is very nearly dry, and we've had to come out and we have one run on softs to put a time in to try to get into Q3, and the weather has essentially turned this into a one-shot quali again as we run very wide on the exit of Village. Makes our entry into turn 4 very difficult. We get on the curb, get a snap-o oversteer, and this lap is not going well so far. Track is dry, but the grip is not 100% there yet. As we head now towards Brooklands, trying to find the limit on this very nearly dry track, trying to avoid becoming a Q2 casualty, as we have a very good opportunity with so many of the front-running cars out in Q1 to qualify better than we might have otherwise. As we go through Cops and we lose it back in and spin it. And that's it. Oh, it's so frustrating. Really feel like I blew an opportunity with the top guys out. So we're out in 15th, our teammates out in 12th, and I might take this opportunity now, since we're qualified in 15th. We may as well take some grid penalties. We're gonna have to take them at some point this season. I think this might be the time, as at worst it'll cost us 5 places. So I am gonna take extra components, but only in the rows where I don't have an unused part. So I'm going to take an ICE, an energy store, and a control electronics, as I have at least one unused part on all the other ones. So we'll definitely be starting towards the back of the grid. It's going to make for a more difficult British Grand Prix, but at least you can pass at this track. I feel like we'll have some good pace in the dry, and there's some big names starting back here as well, so we should have a chance to move forward. Let's head to the grid.
Welcome to not only the home of British motorsport, but also the birthplace of the Formula One World Championship. It's race day here at Silverstone, a classic on the calendar, and it's time for the British Grand Prix. The 3.6-mile long Silverstone circuit is one of the longest of the season, with 18 corners in the current layout. With average lap speeds reaching around 145 miles per hour, it's also one of the quickest tracks of the year. Watch out for cars taking the right-handers of Abbey and of Copse flat out. It's time to see how our drivers are stacking up after yesterday's exciting qualifying session. Lando Norris put in a fantastic lap yesterday, and he'll start from pole position. And it's Charles Leclerc in P2. Looking down the rest of the grid, we have Russell, Ocon, Gasly, Albon, Tsunoda, Ricciardo, Bottas, Oscar Piastri, Zhou, Stroll, Perez, a Haas, Sargent, Verstappen, Hulkenberg, Fernando Alonso, Sainz, and Lewis Hamilton rounds off the grid. Now it's almost time for lights out, so let's go down to the track.
So, mate, you bagged a podium last race, and I, for one, really enjoyed it. I know you did, so let's see if we have more of that today, please.
So it doesn't look like our penalties applied. I'm not sure if anybody's penalties applied because Hulkenberg had one as well. And we had a 30-place grid penalty, and we're still starting in 15th. Anyway, nothing we can do about it, so let's focus on the race. Looks like everybody's starting on softs, at least around us. I decided to go with the medium soft. That way, it gave me a little more flexibility. I'm not sure about the tire wear. If it ends up being higher than we expect, we can switch to the hards instead.
You'll have a bit more grip than that on the start, but we need to warm the tyres properly now. Make sure you get some heat into the brakes as well.
And the 5 red lights. And the British Grand Prix is underway. We get quite a lot of wheel spin off the start, as we're gonna drift to the outside in order to make turn 1 a little bit easier for us. A little bit of a lift as we tuck in behind Piastri, and we're gonna dive up the inside of Perez in the Red Bull. Side by side as we go through Village. Piastri and Stroll battling ahead of us. We go through turn 4, 2 by 2, still side by side. And Perez has to back out, and we're up into 13th, up 2 places on the slower tire. And ahead of us heading into Brooklands, Piastri's able to hold off Stroll. And that was definitely an interesting qualifying session. I didn't really think about the fact that we were battling Perez for 13th and 14th. Verstappen's even further back. Alonso's behind us as well. 2 Alpines in the top 10, 2 V-Carbs in the top 10. Some of these smaller teams who haven't had a great start to the season have a big opportunity for points here. It's still early in the race, but it's very promising. As we go through Maggots and Beckett's, somebody ahead is a little bit slow, as we are all over the back of Stroll now on the exit of Chapel. Onto the hangar straight. We're gonna tuck into the slipstream of Stroll. We're gonna burn a lot of battery as we head towards the fast right-hander of Stowe. We're gonna dive up the inside of the Aston Martin, but Stroll doesn't give up easily as we head towards Club and Vale side by side. Oh, we lock up the tires as we touch the grass on the outside, but we are able to get ahead of the Aston Martin through the chicane. The snap of oversteer on the exit for good measure.
DRS is being enabled this lap. We can use DRS when you're within 1 second of the car ahead and in the DRS zone.
And down the hangar straight, Norris is trying to take advantage of the DRS into Stowe, and the McLaren swipes around Russell for the lead of the race, with Leclerc close behind in 3rd, and it's taken us a couple laps, but we've closed up to the back of Zhou, who's doing an excellent job in the Kick Sauber in 11th, and early in the race I've been content to stay in the DRS, stay close until the mediums become the better tires, waiting for these guys to run through their softs. We tuck in behind Zhou and make a move around the outside of Village and switch to the inside of turn 4. We are able to slide through the Kick Sauber up into 11th.
Good job, nice overtake.
And stay within the DRS of Piastri and the McLaren.
Okay, mate, engine's running very, very hot. Engine's running hot. Let's try and keep it cooler.
And the engine is running a bit warm, as we've been tucked up behind Zhou for the last several laps in this DRS train, so it's probably good that we made our move to get through. We're a little bit further back of Piastri. We get us some clean air. Tsunoda in the Visa Cash App attacking Leclerc in the Ferrari. Leclerc has some kind of mechanical issue. He's fallen behind both Alpines and dropped back to 5th as Tsunoda tries to go all the way around the outside of Luffield, dropping Leclerc down to 6th as we're clinging onto the DRS of Bottas, having watched Piastri improve the lap before. Those Kick Saubers are out of position, but determinedly hanging on. And ahead of us, there's a battle through Maggots and Beckett's. We have to take a big lift, but we are all over the back of Bottas now on the exit of Chapel as we enter the hangar straight. We pull to the left for some clean air, but Bottas is harvesting energy. So we're gonna dive up the inside, try to seize the opportunity he left into Stowe, and we have found our way to the tail end of the points, up into 10th. just behind Piastri and the McLaren. Just ahead of us, Leclerc continues to struggle as Piastri tries to go around the outside through Copse, losing them both momentum and possibly giving us an opportunity into Maggots and Beckett's as we go side by side through Maggots and Beckett's with Leclerc, and we are able to get through as we mounted that sausage curb, making a very risky move into the high speed, but we were able to clear the Ferrari. As Leclerc struggles with that mechanical issue, he continues to tumble down the field, and Ricciardo in that Visa Cash App was able to fend off Piastri this lap, but that battle might continue into Club and Vale. As Ricciardo locks up, and we run into the back of Piastri. Wow, I don't know how we didn't break a wing on the back of the McLaren. We're able to continue on. Piastri's through on Ricciardo.
In the dirty air of the car in front, let's get past them.
One lap later, the Alpines, who find themselves in the best position of the season so far, are going side by side through the fast right-hander of Stowe. You would think with how bad their season's gone so far, they would have team orders to not fight, so they can maximize this opportunity for maximum points. As we see another lockup in the final chicane, this time it's Albon in the Williams. We're a bit further back this time, but I think everybody's starting to really struggle on those softs, and that might be the indication I need to really start pushing to move forward now that we're on the better tire. And Ricciardo is harvesting energy through the first few corners, and that's going to put a bullseye on his back as we dive up the inside of Village, proving up to 8th, and now have our sights set on Albon in the Williams.
Great maneuver, you made it look so easy.
And now's the time to start really pushing to move forward, as these guys are going to come into the pits soon and undercut us. We are all over the back of Albon as we enter Maggots and Beckett's. We have to take a lift as the Williams is struggling for grip. If we can nail our exit out of Chapel, we should be able to use the DRS to get through on the Williams. We tuck into the slipstream, use the overtake, as Albon is forced to start harvesting energy before the end of the straight. We dive up the inside of Stowe, and we are through up into 7th. As we head through Brooklands, Leclerc is all over the back of us with a little twitch on the exit through Luffield, and I think the Ferrari's mechanical issue has been solved as he suddenly found oodles of pace, even on those old softs. We have to go defensive down the old start-finish straight, and Leclerc pulls side by side as we go into Copse, and he's hit us. Oh, Leclerc veered right into us, making contact. I don't know how he didn't break his wing. He tucks in behind us through Maggots and Beckett's, and we've got a little bit of a train forming behind us now as we've dropped out of the DRS of Sonoda. Going down the hangar straight, there's not much we can do. Leclerc has the DRS, not going to defend it too hard. We are going to defend from Albon, and there's a safety car, and we're going to peel off into the pits, and look at that debris on the left side. And they've red flagged it. And my AI decided to make a left turn here and pull off into the gravel. I have no idea what my AI is doing right there. What the hell? So let's take a look at actually what caused that red flag, because that looked like quite a mess. So this is just in front of us, a battle for the lead, as Norris tries to go around the outside of Stowe. And it looks like Norris wants to pit. Russell doesn't. They get on the grass and spin out. And then Norris decides he is going to pit. He drives across the grass, plows into Russell, breaking off a wheel. And then there's a collision behind as well. And I believe that was Gasly and Ocon in the Alpines. And then Ocon drives across the grass and plows into Russell also. What the hell are these guys doing? I have no words. I don't know what's going on there. The top 4 have literally just taken each other out.
All right, get a nice advantage here. Let's have a think about how we handle the rest of this race.
So we are going to go on softs until the end. Oh, and Piastri's engine's blown up. Right on the restart. Piastri's out again. And there's part of a wing goes sailing into the crowd. And somebody ran into the back of Piastri on the restart. I think it was Ricciardo. And so now we find ourselves up into 5th. On brand new soft tires, with everyone around us on the mediums except Norris, but Norris has a 10-second penalty. We have a really good shot at a podium here out of nowhere, as long as we can nurse these tires until the end.
Okay, some information on Piastri. Okay, they're out of this race.
We try to go up the inside of Ocon into Brooklyn, and Gasly's trying to follow us through as well. And this might be why Alpine was trying to recruit us to replace one of these guys, as their battling has cost them a massive amount of points. And it's no secret the friction between these two drivers as they go side by side through cops and make contact again. Even with a 10-second penalty for Ocon, he is not letting his teammate through easily. And if they just work together, they're still in a position to score a good amount of points here, as we have made our way up to 4th. And Norris has a 10-second penalty, so we are on the podium as it stands, which would be another huge result for us. Which brings me back to the secret meetings. I'm actually kind of disappointed we haven't garnered any interest from any other team but Alpine over the course of this season, even with scoring podiums. And whoa, what in the Leclerc, Tsunoda, and Norris are all pitting. Why are they pitting? We just had a red flag restart. I literally just had a huge lockup watching them go into the pits, trying to figure out what they're doing.
Now enables DRS. DRS is now online.
I guess Norris could have pit to serve the 10-second penalty, but why did Tsunoda and Leclerc pit? What is going on with this race? We've been promoted up into the lead as we watch Perez try to overtake Bottas in the Kick Sauber. Both Kick Saubers are in the top 10. Perez does get by up into 6th, and Leclerc, Tsunoda, and Norris have come out 15th, 16th, and 17th way down the field.
Mate, I'd love to see a bit of aggression, but not like this, mate. Come on, let's keep it clean.
And now Mark's on about us making collisions with other drivers, but we're in the lead, nowhere near any other driver, so that'll be an easy objective to pass, I suppose. And I'd like to take the opportunity while these softs are still good, or at least still the better tire, to pull a gap. We have an actual opportunity to win our first race of the season. The really topsy-turvy running order has mirrored the crazy qualifying, so we need to seize this chance while we have it. As Ocon is chasing Albon, trying to recover 4th. And there's smoke. Wow, Alpine's race has just gotten worse. They had 2 drivers running in the top 3 for a while. Then there was an accident. They recovered to having 2 in the top 5, and now Ocon is out, forced to retire with some sort of engine failure. So really bad luck for Ocon, so all of Alpine's hopes are pinned with Gasly now. With a little over 6 laps left, he's still running in 2nd place. We have managed to use the softs to break the DRS to Gasly, and my goal from this point was to keep the gap somewhere between 2.5 seconds, keep the softs in a good window, and try not to think about the fact that we are leading a race. As Stroll attacks Gasly for 2nd place behind, maybe if we can grab a race win, that'll get us some interest from one of the big teams. A Ferrari, a McLaren, a Red Bull. I'm not even saying I want to leave Haas. We're just halfway through a very solid rookie season. We have no contract offers on the table for next year yet, and I kind of feel like our agent isn't selling us hard enough. As we watch Verstappen trying to recover, battling with Zhou in the Kick Sauber for 8th place. Zhou is actually giving a very good fight through Luffield. Not intimidated by the much faster Red Bull, Zhou keeps it defensive up the inside, but Verstappen uses the much faster Red Bull to slide through before cops. Zhou pulls out the slipstream to re-engage, but thinks better of it and tucks back in behind. As we go through Maggots and Beckett, I'm trying not to push too hard, just maintain the gap at between 2 and 2.5 seconds, and try to bring this home.
Lots of spare energy, okay to use your overtake button.
I actually think it'd be a cool feature in the future to change out the agent you have based on what you want them to accomplish. Maybe upgrade them with recognition score, or just give them a list of goals. I want to go to a big team, I want a multi-year contract. Just add some realism. As we go through Club and Vale, getting ready to start lap 22.
Yeah, really good job on hitting that target, mate. Nice work. Still a long way to go, though.
As the battle between the Alpine and Aston Martin heats up, Stroll tries to go around the outside of Stowe. Still side by side. They need to be careful as Perez is not far behind them, as Stroll gets up the inside before Vale. And Verstappen continues his push forward, proving up to 6th, sliding past the Aston Martin of Alonso down the hangar straight. An important move not just for his race, but also for the Drivers' Championship, as he looks to extend his lead and lock in his 4th consecutive Drivers' Championship. And with 2.5 laps remaining, this win is looking more and more possible. The softs have started to feel a little bit secondhand, but we've been able to maintain that 2.5 second gap fairly consistently, which has really helped me not feel the pressure of leading this race. As we take a look at the tire wear, and the front left is nearing 30%, as is the rear left, and the cars behind us on the mediums are certainly on the faster tires now. Gasly down the hanger straight is trying to swing around the outside of Stroll, and as these two battle for second place, Perez tucks in just behind Gasly, looking like he might try to follow him through. As Gasly does get through into Vale, Stroll cuts off Perez. But that battle's going to continue as we head on to the penultimate lap, and our teammate is clinging on to the final points paying position just ahead of Hamilton, but we're going to stick with the battle for second place as Stroll pulls out of the slipstream down the hanger straight. Gasly goes defensive into Stowe. Stroll is able to slide by. Gasly is fighting Perez hard to hold on to third, but Perez slides through, dropping Gasly down to fourth as we head on to the final lap.
Okay, final lap. Let's go. Final lap.
And I'm just trying to keep it consistent and ignore the fact that I'm in the lead of the race at the moment, as the nerves have really started to kick in as this race has drawn closer and closer to its conclusion. We took the lead under fluky circumstances with the crash between Norris and Russell in first and second, followed closely by the Alpines making contact in third and fourth, ultimately bringing out the red flag, promoting us up to fourth and almost guaranteeing us a podium, with Norris having that 10-second penalty ahead of us. And for some reason I still can't fathom, the top three decided to pit the lap after the red flag, gifting us the lead of the race. But since that point, we've stayed at the head of the field, pushed hard to break the DRS to second place, and we've managed to keep these softs in a good enough window to build and maintain a gap, though some of the luck that didn't break our way in Austria is certainly breaking our way this week. As we head down the hanger straight one more time, Perez is pushing Stroll through the exit of Chapel. With the DRS, Perez is able to slip past Stroll for second place, but it looks like Gasly's too far back to challenge the Aston Martin for third. I can feel the excitement building as we count down the corners on the final lap of the race. Turn 16, 17, as we keep it smooth through the final corner, and we won our first race! Come on! Yes! Our first career win! Haas's first career win! Holy crap! Yes!
You always look back at a race like this and think, if I'd just made that mistake there or locked up here, there would have been contact. And every one of those overtakes is a moment where you have to absolutely nail it, perfect it, and that's exactly what they were able to do today. Great stuff indeed.
The quality and fantastic result of the Haas team will have been noticed by everybody else out there today. And you can see why everyone's taking them so seriously. These drivers will be hot property by the end of the season.
We'll see if that's the case, if we are in demand by the end of the season. But for the moment, I just want to revel in our first ever career win in F1. And what a track to do it at. We find ourselves at the top of the timing sheet with Perez and Stroll rounding out the podium. Gasly in fourth recovered really well after that collision with his teammate, and Hülkenberg was able to improve 8 places up into 9th. Verstappen was able to grab 6th with fastest lap, losing out 9 points to his teammate who was on the podium. So as we look at the Drivers' Championship, Perez was able to inch a little bit closer to his teammate at the top, and our unlikely win has rocketed us up the standings, up into 3rd. More importantly, however, is the huge chunk of points we got for the constructors. 7 points back in our battle with McLaren for 5th. Ferrari's only 14 back of Mercedes for 2nd. And with Hamilton's poor showing at his home race and our fortuitous victory, we've won the rivalry against the 7-time world champion. And our ratings should get a fairly significant boost after capturing our first career win. We have to stay diligent with our rating. That is likely what'll get us our bigger and better contracts in the future. With that win, our recognition within the team has fully surpassed Hulkenberg's, so the team now see us as the #1 driver, which was one of our main goals from the start of the season, and we accomplished all of our specialist goals and improved a level in the quality assurance. So let's see what new perk we accomplished with Palo. So we get a durability upgrade time reduction, and as we head back to the main screen from the race weekend, we find we actually have a secret meeting set up. So that race win has garnered us some interest from around the paddock, and it's with Kick Sauber, which at best is a sidestep move for us, and with the developments we've done on the car this year, it's really a step backwards, especially with the major upgrades we have in the pipeline at the moment. And despite them having a pretty good showing around Silverstone, they have struggled for the most part this season for pace. So we're going to decline these talks and hope for a better offer further down the line from a bigger team.
Hey, me again. Been chatting with some of the team higher-ups, and they're delighted with the loyalty you're showing to the team and the project. Now's a good time to ask for a bonus, or a boat, or whatever it is you people get up to out of the car.
So that was a little bit disappointing. I was hoping to have a secret meeting with one of the bigger teams, a McLaren, a Ferrari, Red Bull, etc. Anyway, guys, that's all I got for this week. I'll see you next week in Hungary. Goodbye.